Hi, my name is Brandon, and I'm an alcoholic and addict in recovery. For years in my life, I didn't really think that much of myself. I thought that I was unsuccessful as a person, and I tried to build myself up. I tried to think about the accomplishments that I had, and I tried to think about the fact that I really wanted to be a good person, and I tried to use that to build myself up, but never really worked. And I would classify myself as someone with low self-esteem. And I was offered advice by various people to love myself more, to care about myself more, that I deserved happiness and those kinds of things. And unfortunately, thinking about what we deserve in terms of self-esteem really doesn't do anything to help us gain it. In fact, thinking in general is not really a great recipe to getting the kind of self-esteem we really want. As with anything in life and recovery, the recipe for success when it comes to self-esteem lies in action. So I'm going to read a little bit from Fuck Feelings by Dr. Michael I. Bennett and Sarah Bennett, where they say, further proof of the risk of overvaluing self-esteem is offered by those people who have too much self-esteem and see themselves as superior and exceptional. They're the ones who have little awareness of their ability to act like jerks and cause unnecessary harm. They're proud of their ability to be honest and speak out about truths that others are too polite or too timid to talk about. They believe in themselves to the point of self-worship. And most important, they're usually assholes. See Chapter 9. Ooh, can't wait to get to Chapter 9. So, having a lot of self-esteem, thinking a lot of yourself. I have been there in the past, and I had this kind of dual nature where I thought that I didn't like who I was, and yet I felt superior to other people, which was really weird and didn't make a whole lot of sense. And that did turn me into what I would call an asshole. I could be very condescending. I felt like a lot of people were beneath me in a lot of different ways. I would go around calling people idiots, and I just generally regarded the rest of the world with a lot of unpleasantness. And I think it's easy for us to do that these days because we have more access to see all the different opinions that we disagree with. And it's easier to just acknowledge that it's easier to think that other people are idiots than to just acknowledge that people share different opinions. People do things that we don't understand, that we don't agree with, but they still deserve our love and compassion. So anyway, slight tangent. Going to the next paragraph, they say, the gospel of self-esteem would argue that you can't stand up for yourself until you love yourself enough, thus making self-esteem an essential vitamin to take before you can gain control of your life and do what you think is right without being overly influenced or intimidated by others. So I've heard this before. You got to love yourself more. You got to do this. You got to do that. You got to talk yourself up. Don't be so hard on yourself. All these things. And I would, sit in my garage drinking beer after beer, trying to love myself more. That doesn't make any sense. It's not loving myself to try to build myself up through words and platitudes when I'm continuing to wreck my life in other ways because I can't control my indulgence. I can't control my addiction, my addictive behaviors. All of these other things in life that need to be addressed, I can't fix just by thinking about how I should love myself more. So what is the recipe for addressing this? They go on to say, fortunately, you don't have to have self-esteem to value things in life apart from wealth, good luck, and good feelings. When shy people find the strength to deal with people because they're determined to make a living and support themselves, or when an ugly person socializes because of a wish to be positively involved with others. I didn't like that example. Or when a mean drunk alcoholic tries to get sober. That's a good example. They're acting according to their idea of what's good, and their actions build self-esteem, regardless of how bad they feel about themselves or whether they succeed. Doing what you believe is worthwhile is the only source of real self-esteem, and that's the key. That's the key right there. So, you can read all these books by people talking about how to love yourself and how to take care of yourself. And you can listen, you can look at all the memes you want that have flowers on the edges and talk about how building yourself up and all of these things are so important. And those kinds of things can be helpful along your journey. But until you're willing to take action and to do things that are in line with the values that you find important in life, self-esteem is always going to be elusive. It's always going to be something that doesn't quite seem like it's there the way it should be. That's the way it was for me. I did not gain any substantial self-esteem until I started living my life in accordance with the values that I had about what a good life really meant. Loving people, being compassionate, being kind, helping people, taking care of myself, doing things for my family, all of these things that required me to get sober and maintain that sobriety for life. All of these things, once I started doing them, I found not only did my self-loathing start to slip away, but the need to work on self-esteem started to slip away. I had self-esteem. It doesn't mean I thought highly of myself. It doesn't mean I felt like I was superior to other people. It just meant I stopped thinking about myself so much. That was when I knew something was going right, when I stopped being up here so much. That was one of the big problems for me with my self-esteem, is I spent so much time in my head thinking about myself. As soon as I got some values that required action for me to uphold them, then I got out of here, got into the world around me, and pretty soon feeling good about what I was doing was a natural result of doing it in the first place. That's the secret to self-esteem. And you can pay for courses, you can pay for books, you can pay for all sorts of advice, you can read all sorts of inspirational quotes, but until you start developing values and acting in accordance with those values, you're going to have trouble getting the self-esteem that you really deserve to have in life. And it's not a feeling of superiority. It's a feeling of peace. And that's worth more than any 3-day course in a hotel conference room can do for me. So that's it for today. I'll be back here tomorrow with more. Hope you have a good one.